Hello and welcome back to the next stage of my Carisma Coyote Killerbody D90 build. I'm going to take you through everything I've done to get this mounted as you see it here. The back isn't quite right at the moment because the interior isn't secured properly, because I'm taking it on a run on a trailer and I didn't want any tape, which is what's holding it in. So it should sit kind of like that. It mounts perfectly. Really good. Love it, so very happy. But I have had a number of issues, which is what this video is about, to try and help you. I will put in some chapters, so you know, if there's some things you're interested in more than others, you can skip to them. I'll go through now what I'm going to cover in what order, and that's the wheelbase first of all, then the shock mounts, the bumpers on the body, mounting the shell, and cutting the interior, because you have to do quite a lot of modifications to get it like this, and then any upgrades that I've done to it that you might want to think about. So we're going to do a quick jump cut and start for the wheelbase first, because there was a big problem. Partly my fault, also partly the internet's fault, not all my fault, but yeah, quick jump cut and then we'll start off for chapter 1. So the wheelbase. I matched these two, this Killerbody D90 shell and this chassis together, because every time I'd looked at this chassis, and I've liked it for quite some time, the kit version, which is what I've got here, at the site I was looking at it, it said that the wheelbase was 280, which is 280 millimeters, which is exactly what the Killerbody body shell is. So I thought, brilliant. There's, you know, it's never good. Well, it's never easy. Sorry, trying to put a body shell onto a chassis it's not meant for. You know, you're always going to have to do some faffage. But I was trying to reduce that faffage. But the website information says this kit has a 280 millimeter adjustable wheelbase, but that's not true, because I didn't look at the box when it arrived, and when I put the body shell onto the chassis, it was out by 5 millimeters, and then when I looked at the box it said it's 285. So these are the only links in the box that came with the kit. So there you go. So heart sank. So the project stalled. Well, it didn't stall, but it became more complicated immediately. So what I decided to do was, because it was out of the front, so I couldn't be thinking about trying to take out 5mm front and back, so I thought it'd be easier to take it out the front. It was out at the front, aligned perfectly at the back where I wanted it. So this is where it became a little bit more of a challenge, because these rods here, they're very small, and inside there's a moulded thread, so it's not like a grub screw in these links. The thread's part of the rod, and they are a 2.5 millimeter, I think they're a 2.5 or 2 millimeter thread. So I had to take out 5mm. So I had to carefully cut 2.5 millimeters, that's where the 2.5 millimeters has come from, off of the threads either side to try and shorten it. It worked perfectly with the lower links here, these ones, and those were the first ones that I did. Brilliant. I measured it, put some masking tape around it, cut the thread off, took a little bit off of the end, the rod eye, the plastic rod eye as well, and it looks okay. I did one of the lower links, this one, all fine. Went to do this one, and no other word for it, I messed it up. So the whole idea of this project was to not really spend any money, so I didn't want to buy extra links unless I could really help it. So fell on the last hurdle, unfortunately, so I had to buy some links to get them the right size. But now that is sorted. But in my earlier video, and I've put, not that many people have watched it, but I've put in the description that I was wrong, because I mentioned on the unboxing or the introduction about this project that I was going to, you know, or sorry, that the wheelbase was perfect. It is not. You are going to have to shorten these links. Now, I don't know if the website was talking about the RTR, even though I was looking at the kit. I haven't bothered to investigate where it's gone wrong or why. It's possibly just a misprint. One of those things, but it's now sorted. Really, because I've cut them, there's not a lot of thread going in here, so I could have probably have done with having just replaced the links with metal ends to make them a little bit more secure. Don't know how much that's going to affect it, but when I run it properly, if they snap, I'll have to. But again, it's trying to do this on a budget, so that's the option I've taken, and fingers crossed. I've run it in the house over, you know, various things and good articulation. It hasn't snapped yet, so fingers crossed. So we're going to go to a jump cut to do talk about the shock mounts. So welcome to part 2 and talk about the shock mounts. Why have I changed the shocks? Well, because I adjusted the wheelbase and moved it backwards, I then found that mounting the shocks on any one of these various holes here that you've got the options to use, I couldn't get any of them where I could get the suspension to compress, because the shock was kind of angled that way and it just didn't like it. It just would not, if you were forceful with it, but under normal running in the house, it didn't want to know. Now where they are at the moment, they are probably a little bit too far back, so it's not perfect, but I've probably mounted them not quite right, but kind of very thin, a very small amount of tolerance. So what have I done to change that? Well, what I've done, again, doing this on a budget, so if we come in from the other side here, hopefully you can see that I have mounted my sausage fingers. Right, in here you can just see that I have mounted a piece of styrene. So that piece of styrene goes across the shock towers and it is mounted here with that screw there, a nut and bolt, and again it's mounted through here, so you can just see the styrene sticking out. This enabled me to put the shock in the middle of the shock tower, just here. So for me, that was something I wanted to try. I had bits of styrene left over and it seems to work fine. As I say, it's not quite in the most ideal place, but the suspension works quite well. Talking about the shocks, I can't remember now what I'd said on the last video, but I've now gone with, I've put a little bit of oil in front and back shocks. These are the Team Rafferty shocks, and the soft springs on the bottom, because they're 2-stage springs, and the firmer springs on the top, and they seem to work quite well. With the shell on, there's a little bit of sag, yeah, and they're quite good. So that's same setup front and back, just a tiny bit of oil inside. Not much. I might have to play with that when there's more weight on the body, but we'll have to wait and see. So the next thing we're going to go on to is the body and the bumpers. So about the body and the bumpers, I wanted the traditional, well, I say not traditional, I don't know if they're traditional, but the D90 that I like, the style of bumper that I like, which is these kind of very small wraparound ones. You can't put any accessories on them, or winches or anything like that. This was a bit of a challenge because where you would normally mount the bumper on the chassis, the kind of mounting bracket, if you like, meant that this bumper was far too far out from the body. There was a big gap. I didn't like it, so I had to, for me, mount it to the shell. I thought that was the best solution. I've done the same on the back, so they're matching. This one is in a bit of a state because this was one that was on my SCX-10 Jeep. I had stolen it off there, so it's been used and scratched and battered. But again, they're quite expensive, these bumpers. So I just wanted to reuse it. So I bought one for the front, and I bought YM and then used this, recycled this one for the rear. Of course, that leaves me without a bumper on the Jeep, but I'll have to sort that out with maybe another cheaper option. But I wanted aesthetically for this to look right. So the back, how did I do that? Well, I was quite chuffed with this. I mounted it using some old body post mounts I've got. So I drilled a hole through here, mounted them on here and screwed them straight through to the bumper, and I was quite pleased with that. I'm happy. That's why you can see now that there are 2 screws here and here, but it looks fairly clean. I'm going to have a spare wheel on here, so you're not going to see those screws. They'll be well hidden, and for me it was really worthwhile to get the bumper that I really wanted. The standard shell, if you look back to my unboxing, I've cut all this off. It had mounts here so you can put a plastic bumper on it, but yes, that's gone. So I was really pleased with that. The front was a bit more of a pain in the backside, and I made a bit of a mess of it. So I tried to drill, I cut off the bottom part underneath the grill. I tried to drill through these side bits here where you see these outer bolts, but when you try to mount the bumper to that, the bumper started rolling over. It was not enough support. So I thought, no, I think that was right. I cut the shell underneath the grille to try and get it to fit with the bumper mounted onto the chassis, and I didn't check it properly. I cut it, was a bit tired, a bit stupid, didn't think it through, and then it's gone. So really, as standard, I might have been able to get away with mounting the the bolts through the part underneath the grille as standard. Not sure, too late to tell now, but I've had to come up with this styrene idea, which works. It comes through. I need to sort those bolts out and just get some smaller ones, but it's just what I had in my big box of spares. So it works, and you're not going to see it either. So I'm really happy with that. I think it looks ace. I really like this bumper, front and back. I really like how it looks. I'm not going to put lots of accessories on this truck. They're not for the start anyway. I don't want a roof rack. I want it quite clean, minimalistic. That's my plan. So let's talk about the mounting next. So going to be a big jump cut to talk about what I did to get the body onto the chassis. Okay, so mounting. Look at this cutting. Now, someone that follows our channel, Mal, he said, oh, well, don't cut too much bit at a time. Well, I have cut too much. Rookie mistake. But the cutting of this was a bit of a nightmare, because this chassis, whoops, breaking everything. This chassis has a massive, and I mean massive, gearbox. It's huge, so I needed a lot of space. It also it's quite wide as well. It pretty much takes up the whole width of the chassis. So, and you've got to be really careful. So I've put all the electrics in as where they need to go. You've got to be really careful where you run everything, because there is hardly any space to put anything else, and to get the shell to mount as it should do. So what I did first of all, the magnets, I had the magnets the wrong way round. They come in separate bags, and what I didn't realise, I didn't check, I just used the two magnets that come in the same bags, and for the mounting and the magnets you put on the shell. But what had happened is the magnets were opposite to each other. So when I was mounting it, putting it on, testing it, the shell kept resisting and going to one side, and I couldn't really see inside or underneath, so I kept cutting bits and pieces, and it has to account for the battery, and it was the left and right alignment I was having problems with, and it turned out to be the magnets. So I cut far too much of this off than I needed to, so big rookie error. So that was a mistake, but it fits and you don't really notice. I'm going to lay some kind of black sheeting over the gearbox, so and there's going to be a driver in here, and some accessories inside, so you don't see it, so it's not really an issue. Just bugs me a little bit, but lesson learned. But it works, that's the main thing. So mounting, I'm mounting it using magnets, because it's the simplest option. The magnets I've got, I will put a link to them in the description, are so strong. They come off of Amazon. I think they were £5. I wasn't expecting much. I was worried about mounting a hard shell with magnets. It wouldn't be strong enough, because I use Lexan shells with magnets, and some of the ones I've had aren't very strong. These are crazy. So I've had to put some styrene, because there's the inserts here of the rear seats, and typically where the magnets need to go, where I want it, is right in the middle of where the indent is for the seat. So I put some styrene across, and this is Gorilla Tape, which does a fantastic job of holding magnets on, and there's also magnets on the front here. So this is a world of tape at the moment, and the body shell, sorry, the interior is taped down. It's taped all over the place, so the shell's going to need a really good clean before painting. But for now, it's been great using this tape. I probably will continue to use the tape because it's so strong, as I'll show you in a moment. It mounts fine, so I will paint it up, put the tape back on. You're not going to see it, and it will work brilliantly. So let's put the mount on. I'm going to have to do a quick jump cut because it's too close in, so you can see. So shell is on with the magnets. And this is how strong they are. Again, the rear body isn't, well, rear interior, which is linked, connected to the shell. This will all be, you know, insecure, glued in, whatever. And so it will move, hence why it looks a bit funny with the mounting location. So it's the interior that's, you know, is still at the moment and the body's moving. But despite that issue, I'm going to pick it up. It's just magnets. I can actually lift. So obviously the rear body, the rear interior is coming away, but I can lift the whole truck when the interior, so the front coming up, and that's still on the magnets. That's how strong they are. They're not letting go. And getting the magnets off, you know, unstuck, is really quite difficult, especially with the interior. So if I, you know, pop them on the front, they really are quite violent. Do not, if you get these magnets, you know, kind of have your fingers in the way between the two magnets, because they are severe. So great, it mounts lovely. Going to be really, you know, really pleased with that. I've driven it around, you know, around the house with the shell on. I love the wheels. I love how it looks. So I'm really excited about this. It's going to be absolutely fantastic. You know, orange and white. I'm still keeping the orange and white, fairly basic. It's going to be amazing, and I'm really excited about it. So now I've done this video, I can get on with painting. So that's the next thing to do. I need to do, you know, clean the shell a lot. I think I'm going to take it out on a trailer first, towed by the PG4, do a nice video of that. And it's going to be a bit dusty anyway, so I'm going to clean it all, rub the bits down that I want to rub. There's some rough edges and body join lines and things. Take the bumpers off and then get down to spraying it. And I will do that. I will either do an update after I've just sprayed it or after primer or at some stage. One other thing to show you and mention, which has made a huge difference, let's take the interior off, so the body off, is the steering arm, metal steering arm. It's a Vroom Racing one. I think it's for another truck, can't remember what it's for. I'll put a link to it. And that's made a big difference. This cheap servo says it's 25 kilograms. It's not 25 kilograms. It was a cheapie off eBay, and I'm probably going to change that out because the servo's not great. But having the great upgrade you can do on this, I've been running it indoors in carpet, and the plastic one has got so much give in it. Steering wasn't great. As soon as I put the metal one on, it's made a really big difference. So that's great. The magnets, the arms, they again, you know, as I said, I'll put a link in the description. They're just bolted to the chassis, front and back. I'm going to have to cut some of them down, make sure they're out of the way. So there's a lot of finishing touches to be getting on with. But very happy. I hope this helps you. If you've got any questions, comments, please put them in the usual place. And I'm really happy with how it's gone on so far. There hasn't been too many mistakes. Interior maybe, and the wheelbase slightly. That was a bit of a shock. But I got around it without spending too much money, so good stuff. Thank you for watching as always. Please stay safe, please like and subscribe, and catch up soon. Bye for now.